This week I thought I would talk through some of the new photography related things that I've picked up this month, as well as just some of the photos that I've been shooting. I made a monthly favorites video a while back and it's been quite some time, so I thought it was time for a second installment. The first thing that I've been enjoying this month isn't something that I thought I would enjoy when it was initially released, but I think Kodak Ektachrome has been such an awesome film to work with. When this stuff was first announced, I was a little skeptical about how hyped up it was, but after I got my first roll back from the lab, I was really amazed at how sharp this film is. I think compared to negative film, slide film just has much finer grain, it's much sharper. And I love the tonalities of Ektachrome. It has really nice red and blue tonalities, and yeah, it's just a film that I was surprised by. Considering it's a 35mm format, you can get so much detail out of this film with a nice lens, and yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be shooting a lot more of this in the future. The only thing right now is that it's kind of expensive. It goes for like $12, $13 per roll, but somehow slide film feels a little bit more special, and I tend to savor it a lot more than when I'm just shooting portrait or any other negative film. This past month I actually bought a 35mm camera. I didn't have a serious 35mm camera, but I found myself wanting something that I could carry around more in my daily life as opposed to my RZ67, which is definitely only used on serious shoots. So the camera I bought is a Contax G1. I think it's a really nice balance between a nice autofocus camera that feels really good, but also not being as expensive as something like the G2 or any Leica really. For carrying something around daily, this camera just feels really good. It's really pleasant to work with. It feels very refined, and it's just a very nice experience to work with. I have a 45mm lens which I bought for this camera. It's super sharp, definitely sharper than 35mm can actually pick up. One of the main features of this camera is obviously that it has autofocus, and the G1's autofocus isn't perfect. It definitely misses a couple of shots per roll. That being said though, I think considering it's such an old camera, it still does a really good job, especially considering the price point. I'm not sure how I feel about it missing a couple of frames every roll. I think it's to be expected with an older camera, and if you want a perfectly focusing 35mm camera, that's kind of why the G2 was invented. I also bought a flash with this camera. It's the TLA 200, which is the cheaper Contax flash. It's really nice for just taking it around on a daily basis because you can shoot in any lighting situation. Yeah, really like that flash. I've taken a ton of photos with this camera over the past month. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it in the future, but it's definitely been really fun to shoot with. Everything about this camera just feels really well made. It has really nice dials. It has exposure compensation. The only thing is that the autofocus is really loud, a little bit slow. I don't mind that too much. A lot of people might. You can have a listen to how loud it is. That being said, I think it's a really nice camera and I'm definitely going to keep shooting with it. The next thing isn't something specific, it's more 4x5 as a whole photography format. I've been shooting a lot more 4x5 in the past month or two. I posted that first video shooting the large format portraits, which was all black and white. That was my first time shooting with it properly. I really liked how those came out. I think they're really sharp, but portraits aren't ideally what I'd use this camera for. This past week, I went to New Jersey and I shot my first box of Portra 160, so color film on 4x5, and I'm much more of a fan of this. I developed all of these myself with this insert that I bought for the Patterson tanks, which allows you to develop 4x5 in them. And I'm just a big fan of color film on 4x5. It has so much dynamic range. I definitely think this medium has a lot of potential. I have a lot of ideas for projects that I want to shoot on 4x5. So definitely this month I would say I've been enjoying just 4x5 as a medium itself. I think the photos from New Jersey came out pretty cool. I only shot 10 photos, which is a box of negatives. I think they look really nice. Colors are super nice. It's very sharp, and they definitely aren't my favorite photos. I was still just experimenting a little more, but it's definitely like promising as a medium for things I want to do in the future. Up next is actually a backpack. This was really nicely sent to me by the company Brevity. They're not paying me to say any of this, but this is definitely the best photography backpack that I've ever used. I feel like I've said multiple times in the past that I would never use a photography backpack, but this one really has changed my mindset on that. It feels just enough like a normal everyday backpack, but it also maintains like the functionality of a camera bag, and I think that's why I love it so much. I use it on a daily basis, and then it also just fits all my camera gear really well. I love how padded this thing is. It's really comfortable when my RZ is in there, and it just fits really well on my back as well. This bag basically opens from any side. It has top openings, side openings. You can swing it around, and it even has this really nice removable insert for when you want to add some extra padding and organization to your camera gear. There's even this nice little lens cap holder on the side, so when you take your lens cap off your camera, you don't have to throw it in some random pocket and go searching for it later. You can just clip it right on your shoulder. It also works with filters or whatever you want, really. The sizes are even adaptable, so I think that's really cool. It also just feels really great to wear, and you'll definitely be seeing this bag more in my future videos. The last thing on my list, and probably my favorite, is a photography book that I picked up this month. It's called Contact High, and they call it a visual history of hip hop. I think that's a really good way to put it. It's basically a collection of all the contact sheets and final images from some of the most iconic hip hop photo shoots throughout history. I think for somebody who's definitely still learning the process of portrait photography very much, this is such a valuable resource to be able to see all the contact sheets and how that developed into the final images that are so iconic in some of the most famous rappers' careers. There's a ton of incredible photos in here, and I notice something new every time I look through this book. It has so many incredible little details that you can look through in the contact sheets, and just seeing the process of the whole photo shoot and how that developed into the final image is really cool. This book is also surprisingly affordable. I think it's like 25 or 30 bucks, which is really surprising. I'll have a link in the description to all the stuff I talked about in this video. I do briefly want to mention my own photography zine, which will be coming out in the next month or so. It's called America's Playground, and it's all of my photos from Coney Island. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll have seen some stuff about this, but we're basically in the final stages of doing the layout and the design of the zine. When you're seeing this video, it should actually be in print, which is cool. I worked with an incredible designer on this project, and there definitely will be some kind of New York City launch party for this zine, a little gallery night, which I think would be really cool. If you're in New York City, definitely come out to that. I'll also have a whole video coming out about that photography zine, and if you're interested in that launch party, definitely keep up with my Instagram or these videos. I'll be posting much more information on that in the coming month. That's it for now. Peace.